Good evening. John's here. Good evening. Thank you all for coming, either here in person or via Zoom. I don't know where the cameras are. I'd like to call this meeting to order. First, we're going to start with some housekeeping. Please submit all questions via the chat if you are online, or save in person for the question period after each of the sections. We will respond to questions after each presentation. The motions for voting will be done via Zoom, polling questions to show of hands in person. Each motion will be read first with an opportunity for discussion through chat, followed by the poll. If there are two people on Zoom in one household, you must be on separate accounts if you want to be counted separately. Just to take us through the agenda, Rabbi Danny will give some clergy remarks, then my remarks as president. We will approve the 2022 annual meeting minutes, the treasurer reports from Rebecca Chasen, the bylaw amendment from Roy Lurie, the nominating committee with Rachel Heckler and John Tabasky, the development report from Ginny McDowell, then old business, new business, and then we will all go home. Rabbi Danny.
It's lovely to be with those of you who are here in person in the sanctuary, and those of you who are watching via the live stream, or via the Zoom actually. It's great that we can all be together for this meeting. And as we come together, I just want to begin by just thanking Jackie for all of her work as president of our community. I feel truly blessed to have you as a partner in this sacred work and to continue doing this work together, and I am so grateful for your leadership. These are interesting times, as they always are, and I think we should all just recognize how lucky we are to have you serving as our president and leading us through this period. I'm standing here at the end of my 6th year as I begin my 7th year at Temple Shir Tikva. That didn't... That aside, 7 years in Judaism is considered to be a complete number. When we think about the number 7, we know 7 days of creation into that first Shabbat. We know 7 years get us to the sabbatical year. But when we look at those ideas Jewishly, in reality what we have is we have a period of 6, and then we rest in our 7th year, or on our 7th day. Now don't worry, I'm not about to take next year off as a year of rest or a full sabbatical. My father likes to say I have no Sitzfleisch, I can't sit still anyway. But instead, I want to use this moment as we come together to reflect on our 6 years together and where we were in terms of where we are today. I look back through my calendar, and I first arrived in Wayland on November 20th, 2016, which seems like a lifetime ago. And Matt, you were there at the time, picking me up. At that time, I was just getting to know the community. And you shared a senior rabbi job description, if we can go to the first slide, which was 41 pages long. And I pored over that document again and again, and probably spent more time on it than I should have done. But it was my experience reading that and then getting to meet Judy Kay and the search committee and the community that made me convinced that this was the place that I wanted to be, both as a rabbi, but also as a member of this community. But in looking back at that document, what I thought was so interesting is that in your description of the job, you laid out your priorities, your goals, your aspirations for Temple Shir Tikva. And so what I wanted to do this evening is just to reflect on what those goals and aspirations were, and to think about where we've come in these 6 years in terms of trying to achieve them. In looking at the document, which I'm happy to share with anyone who wants to read all 41 pages, you listed priorities for the new rabbi. And you began by saying, we believe that our new senior rabbi should provide us with guidance towards spiritual meaning in a secular world through meaningful worship, a commitment to excellence in Jewish learning for our entire community, from our youngest to our oldest members, and an enthusiasm to inspire all of us to deepen our Jewish engagement as we embark on a new chapter in our synagogue's life. We seek a senior rabbi who will initially focus on, and then you gave us 3 areas of priority. If we could just click forward. Building community, engaging the next generations, and ensuring an inclusive community for our many interfaith families. When I think about the way that this community came together during COVID to support one another, I remain in awe of our dedicated members, staff, and lay leaders who found ways to build and ensure spiritual connection even when we were physically separated. And we continue to be building that community today through our hybrid approach to services, learning, and programming so that people can truly connect with TST wherever they are and in whatever way works for them. I can't tell you the number of people who reflect on how grateful they are for the live streaming of services so that they can be in their pajamas, sitting on the couch, and joining us each and every week for Shabbat. But you also, in the context of building community, specified the need to strengthen the connection between TST and the wider community. I would suggest that today we are one of the primary synagogue addresses for the alphabet soup of Jewish organizations who make up the rich and vibrant Boston Jewish community. CJP, JCRC, JFS, JFNCS, ADL, JCC, and many others know that they can reach out to us as a valued and trusted partner when they're looking for a synagogue to work with. When I talk to them, I like to describe us as the Goldilocks synagogue. We're not too big so that we do everything on our own, and we're not so small that we're not bringing anything to the table. We're just that perfect right size to be the partner that they look for. And even more locally, over these years, we have worked with the surrounding towns and school districts to ensure that not just our members, but the Jewish community is supported in facing some of the challenges that we are all too familiar with today. Then we talk about engaging the next generations. This was an aspiration for the rabbi, but the truth is, the most important thing was getting the right people to be doing this work. Alison Weichel and Stephanie Lerner have really, truly led the toddler to teen endeavor, which is essentially outlined in that description from K to 12, and ensuring that we have a program that is nationally recognized for the work that they're doing. When the URJ wanted someone to write an article about engaging people across the generations in childhood education, they went to Alison and Stephanie. When CJP wanted to consult with the field to understand the best way to work through from young families upwards, they came to Alison and Stephanie. Alison and Stephanie have also now both been approached to take on leadership roles in the national organizations of which they're part of, the Association of Reformed Jewish Educators and the Early Childhood Educators of Reformed Judaism. We have leaders in the field who are ably supported by their team with Jenna, Marissa, and Andy, and they're ensuring that we truly are engaging the next generation. And if you were here on Friday night for Shabbat Yeladim or Shabbat B'Yachad, you will see countless families, young people, grandparents, parents, children, making their way and finding their place here at Temple Shir Tikva. The next generation is most definitely being engaged here in Wayland. And finally, of these initial priorities, you talk about engaging interfaith families. And we don't even talk about that anymore at Temple Shir Tikva because inspired by Alison, we now actually talk about Jewish plus families. We've recognized the fact that interfaith isn't really a sufficient term for what we're talking about, doesn't do justice to the beauty and the rainbow of diversity of these families who choose to make their place here at the temple. And we can say now to any and everyone who comes into the doors that the partner of another religious tradition or of no religious tradition can be just as involved as the Jewish partner or parent. There is no distinction in what happens in our services, in Bar Mitzvah celebrations, across the board. We ensure that there's a warm feeling of welcome at the beginning, but then for these families, we make sure that they know that they belong here. And when you think about the fact that they're choosing to opt into our Jewish community, that really is the least we can do. And we truly are leading in this area as well. and extending it to make sure that it's not just the parents who join and the families who join, but their grandparents, their uncles, their aunts, the guests who join us, also know that they have a part at Temple Shir Tikva and a place as part of our extended family. And so those were the initial goals. But in 41 pages, you didn't stop there. So if we can flick onto the next slide. The 3 most important issues to confront in your congregation in the next 5 years. We're going for 6 instead. Membership and demographics, next generations, and financial models. I think there might have been one slide before that, John. Was there one slide that we missed? Pardon? With an include. Then go forward. Maybe there's one more. Okay, go. So we missed one. There was one other slide in between, or there's another little bit, sorry, which I must have missed. Oh, there. That's the one. We got that. An inclusive, welcoming community, engaging every demographic in innovative ways, and a place of communal gathering and focus. These were primary goals laid out for the congregation as a whole. With a task force dedicated to inclusion receiving funding from CJP and the Ruderman Foundation, we have made sure that within the restrictions of this building, it is as accessible as it possibly can be. You'll hear a little bit later from Jackie about some of the advances that we've made in ensuring full accessibility in this building, but we've made every endeavor possible to make sure that anyone and everyone can feel that they can enter into this space comfortably without the need for additional assistance or support. And then, when we talk about a place of welcoming that's inclusive, I would say we've gone even further with that because we've broadened that definition of inclusion to what it means to make sure that people are welcomed here regardless of gender, sexuality, race, or any other status. Today, we don't talk about children becoming bar or bat mitzvah. We talk about be mitzvah, ensuring that it's a fully inclusive term for everyone who steps into this building. And then the website, the paperwork, and everything we do in the community, we try to reflect the diversity of our membership so that everyone sees themselves reflected back in Temple Shir Tikva. If we stay with innovation, when we think about engaging every demographic in innovative ways, TST is known for being an innovative community. The Center for Jewish Spirituality is truly at the cutting edge of this work. In talking to the Mussar Institute, it transpires that we probably have the largest Mussar program in all of North America. That's something we should be immensely proud of, because today Mussar is spreading, but it was here first. People were engaging with that type of work before it was fashionable, before anyone else was doing it. We were innovating to ensure that people could connect. And when we talk about whether we engage with every demographic, this is one of those areas where we can say, yes, but maybe not yet enough. It's an area where there is definitely room for improvement as we seek to develop and deepen the sense of belonging that people have. But with Rabbi Blumberg teaching a class Ad Mea Ve'esrim for our seniors, with our adult community engagement group providing social programming, with our wonderful adult education program providing high-quality learning experiences, we are doubling down on the different ways that people can connect to the community and ensuring that truly across the demographics, there's something for everyone. And we are so excited that Leah Staffen is joining our team as a Director of Community Engagement, which is going to allow us to do even more. In many ways, our limitations has been the capacity of our staff to provide this program, and she's going to allow us to expand that exponentially. And then, to be a place of communal gathering, we see the strength of community in the way that the diversity of ways that people today can connect with Temple Shir Tikva. We have members who engage through services and prayer, others who primarily come here as a place for learning, some who are at the synagogue as their place where they connect socially, and even others who come here as the place where they can be active in this world, taking on leadership roles to make our world a better place. And with a specific mention of Tikkun Olam, let's recognize the work that both our Social Action Committee have done in settling an Afghan family into this area, who are now a part of the community across the road and a part of Temple Shir Tikva, and the work of our Environmental Action Committee, who are ensuring that we are stewards not just of this building as a space, but more broadly of this planet with all that is entailed in that responsibility. And so finally, there are the issues to confront in the future. Membership and demographics, next generations, and a financial model. At a time when people are talking about declining synagogue memberships and affiliations, we are growing. Over a 6-year period, looking at our numbers, despite a global pandemic, our ELC is bigger, our Hineni religious school program is bigger, our teen program is bigger, and our synagogue membership is bigger. Growth in every area of synagogue life. We are welcoming members back into Temple Shir Tikva at pre-COVID levels, and we are a success story of what's possible in a suburban synagogue setting. People are coming to talk to us about how we're succeeding in the modern world. They want to hear about the secret sauce of Temple Shir Tikva. But that's the membership and demographics that we need to see to maintain a sustainable, future-looking community. And then with a specific focus on next generations, as we've mentioned with the ELC, with Shabbat Yeladim, with Hineni, come here any day of the week and you see those next generations. They're being engaged. But the focus there was mentioned about after B'nai Mitzvah. And the work that Jenna Friedman has done to ensure that teenagers remain engaged and connected to this community is exemplary. Our teens can connect now at Temple Shir Tikva through our learning program, Aish. Or maybe they connect through our Madrachim program, helping teach on a Sunday morning or Wednesday afternoon. Or maybe they connect through T-Cubed, our social philanthropy fund. Or maybe they connect through Stifty, our youth group. Or maybe they connect through trips to Washington, D.C. and New York. All these ways to connect, so much so that we had 10 graduates that we celebrated last month, and so many others who are connected in our teen programming, the largest in Metro West. And finally, in that next generation category, it's also worth noting that there's a next generation in terms of seniors who are moving into the area. We are all aware of the various developments around Sudbury and Natick and surrounding towns that are bringing seniors into Metro West. And we are seeing next generations, not just in the youngsters, but also in our seniors who are finding their way to our community and finding a place to belong for themselves at that stage of their life, which is something that I don't think we should underestimate its significance for the wider community. And finally, we need a sustainable financial model. In 6 years, and I take no credit for this, this is due to exemplary treasurers and a wonderful development committee, I don't think we've delivered a single deficit budget in that period of time, ensuring that we are always financially responsible while still taking risks to ensure that we can provide the best synagogue that Temple Shir Tikva can be and that Metro West needs. And so, in terms of the criteria that I think were laid out back in 2016, we can judge our synagogue to be a success. We can see the way that we are on a path to the future, achieving those goals that we set out to achieve. But when I think about all of those achievements, I'm proud of them, but it's not the thing I'm most proud of. And so I want to just share what I'm most proud of in terms of our 6 years at the temple, and then I promise I will finish. Normally I'm very timely. I figure once a year I can go over time. So as many people know, I'm obsessed with Ted Lasso, which is the TV show about an American football coach who takes over a British soccer team. And while there is much debate about what this show is really about, I think it's about primarily the way that people can grow and transform together in a community, supporting one another to be their best selves. In one moment, no spoilers, I'm not sure who's finished the series or not, they talk about something called the Richmond Way. What does it mean to do this? And I think in that context, I want to think about the TST way. Because when I think about what I'm most proud of, it's about the culture of this place today. It is clear that Temple Shir Tikva has been through some challenging times in the past. And I want to acknowledge those brave leaders who made difficult choices to bring us to the place that we are in today and to give the gift that I feel so lucky to have the opportunity to serve this community. But today, the culture of this place is one where we follow those examples from that television series. We have a staff team that is excited and happy to come to work and be with one another. Cantor Hollis and Karen and Julio, they're the ones who predate these 6 years. And I think they're the best people you can talk to about Temple Shir Tikva today and the culture of this place in that way. They've been here from the beginning. We have an amazing education team with Alison, Stephanie, Jenna, Marissa, and Andy. Supported so much so by our admin and tech with Christina and John, who do so much to ensure that we're seen, we're heard, and that the membership is taken care of in the way that they need to be. And then with the clergy team, with student Rabbi Heather and our Rabbi Emeritus Herman Blumberg, still involved in the community, we have this amazing team of people who are leading Temple Shir Tikva. And I've left one name out intentionally because I don't think we can overstate the significance of Mary Beth Retger in her role as executive director for this community. It's often, being clergy is a nice job often. We get to be standing up here, we get a lot of the credit when things go well, and often people don't want to be too mean to us when they don't go so well. Being executive director is a little different. And the way that Mary Beth has led us through this period, the impact she has had on our professional team in the way that we work together, support one another, and again, that culture of care, concern for one another, friendship and kindness, she brings that every day into our workplace. And I want you all to know just how lucky we feel as a professional team, and I speak for all of the professionals, to have her here, and how lucky we are as a community to have her in that way. And so that's the cultural transformation as a staff. But I also want to talk about how we've transformed as a community with just 3 quick examples. In speaking to one of our new CBT families who joined us, they talked about the fact that when they come here, they immediately felt that sense of welcome. People knew their names and reached out to them, welcomed them, and ensured that they felt a part of every program they wanted to be at. And I'm so grateful that they're here this evening as well. Alongside that sense of welcoming, we heard recently from a young family who came to just one of our Shabbat Yeladim services in the summer, just to try it out. They moved to Framingham because of the community they found at Temple Shir Tikva on that Friday night. When Cantor Hollis was speaking to them, they talked about the fact that Jewish community was so important to them and they wanted a place to raise their family with a synagogue that they could belong to. And after they came here, that was the impetus to buy their house, not the other way around as we normally expect it to be. And finally, even when we had a challenging issue in a particular class in our school recently, the way that every single parent dealt with that issue with kindness, compassion, and concern for one another was just, it took my breath away. That's what I'm proud of. It's not just about the numbers and the statistics that we can give and all those things. This is a special place to be a part of today. And there is truly a Temple Shir Tikva culture that I'm grateful to be able to be a part of for myself and for my family, privileged to work with this amazing staff team that we have, and so lucky to serve as a rabbi for this community. And the only thing I'll say is that with this foundation of these 6 years, just imagine the possibilities of what we're going to be able to do next in the next 6 years and beyond. Thank you.
Somehow I always manage to follow him, which is never easy. Good evening. A year ago, I stood before all of you in person and via Zoom and introduced myself. I am hoping that as I stand here tonight, that you all know who I am, either from meeting me in person at services or events, or electronically through all of my letters and updates. For those who don't, I am Jackie Lauren. I am the 25th president of Temple Shir Tikva, and I continue to be deeply honored by the trust placed in me to lead our congregation. So I am so proud of the many things our staff and volunteers have accomplished this year. I would like to share some of the highlights. Buckle up, it's quite a list.
No.
In our building, we have replaced the roof over the education wing. It'll be completed by the end of June, preparing our building for the solar panels. We have repaired long-standing defects in our fire suppression system. We have torn out those ugly bushes and overgrown shrubs on the space between our parking lot and Route 20. We added gutters to the courtyard to improve drainage. We have painted classrooms and made chalkboards into whiteboards, improving their appearance and utility. We have made the first floor bathrooms fully handicapped accessible. We have made our lobby a welcoming gathering space by adding new furniture and a coffee bar. You're welcome, Danny. We have replaced the aged and stained dividing walls between our sanctuary and social halls, and we have added a wheelchair ramp to make our bima more accessible for those with mobility issues. In our clergy and staff, we have continued to expand our popular Yeladim service for our youngest members, a Biyahad service for Hanani-aged members, and are seeing 3 generations join together in prayer at those services. We have hosted a number of joint services, including the United Parish of Brookline, the Islamic Center of Boston, the Greater Framingham Community Church, and joint Shabbat services with our friends at Congregation B'nai Torah. We have learned with our scholar-in-residence, Cantor Rosalie Will, created with our artist-in-residence, Mike Worth, and recently, Cantor Hollis and Jonathan Zachauer convened a spiritual and ritual discussion to continue our work on reimagining worship. We have provided personalized web pages to every Bar Mitzvah child and family, centralizing all the forms and materials in one easy-to-find location. We have revitalized our temple communications with a new website, new quarterly newsletters, new monthly letters from Jackie, to try to help keep our members better informed of the many things that we have going on. Are y'all buckled in still? We got some time to go. In education, the education program Allison, Jenna, Andy, Stephanie, and Marissa have created and fostered continues to grow and impress. Their dedication to our students and their families has created an atmosphere of learning and growing and connection. We currently have 309 students from toddler to teen, including 54 new students from 25 new families, 76 teens, 33 teachers, 32 Madrahim, and 35 Hebrew decoding classes. Jenna ran not 1, but 2 Shabbaton this year, one for our 7th and 8th graders who missed their in-person Shabbaton due to COVID, and one for our normal 6th graders. Our teens also held the first in-person Nifty retreat with teens from all over New England coming together in our building, and some sleeping on floors and basements, for an entire weekend of events. It is truly a joy to see our students engaged and building their sense of belonging, not only to our community, but to Judaism. In our community, we have continued to encourage in-person connection. Our clergy offered a variety of in-person classes throughout the year. Student Rabbi Heather has helped our Minyan and Torah study groups meeting in person and online. Our adult education has continued to bring valuable offerings to our adult learners through stimulating lecture about Middle East politics and discussions of contemporary Jewish-themed books and films. Our Adult Engagement Committee has been incredibly active this year, bringing us many ways to connect through mahjong, community hikes, community dinners, coffees, and speakers. Our committees continue to work hard to better our community. Here are a few examples. The Environmental Action Committee work is to reduce waste throughout the temple and to make sure that the choices we are making are in line with our environmental policies, including our solar and HVAC projects. The mental health initiatives work to provide resources to the congregation has focused on the importance of the physical health, but our community's mental health as well. The Social Justice Committee has continued to bring social justice topics to our attention, including the hosting of our annual David Passer lecture, focusing this year on reproductive rights. We can also continue to be successful in winning grant funding, which allows us to expand and improve our security, programming, and staffing. Our reputation is strong in the wider Jewish community, where we have received grants and opportunities to participate in cutting-edge professional development training like Project Belonging. I know it seems like a lot, because it is a lot. We should be incredibly proud of our community and what we have accomplished this past year. It has been incredibly rewarding to see how many of our congregation have to love and feel the commitment that I feel to TST. I would like to personally thank every volunteer, anyone who has volunteered to make things happen from our amazing board to our High Holy Day greeters, to event workers, to event planners, and all involved in our committees. We are a community that works best when we are all involved, and not only in coming to offerings, but to have their hands in it, to make it, for them to be making them a success. I encourage everyone to give a little bit of their time when the opportunities arise. I strongly encourage you to join one of our many, many committees and add your time and expertise. Your involvement is essential in making us the heart of Jewish living in Metro West, and we honestly cannot do it without you. Things we are focusing on as we look ahead. Our long-awaited, discussed, and planned HVAC project will begin this summer. We will start on the education side of the building before moving to the sanctuary after the High Holy Days. Our solar project is due to begin in the fall. The Board of Trustees will continue to move forward on our strategic plans initiated last year and make changes as needed. In July, we welcome Rabbi Lisa Idison. I always say her name wrong. I'm sorry, Lisa. We love you. And new members from Congregation B'nai Torah to our community. Although we are not merging as we originally envisioned, we have maintained our commitment to the aspiration of the original Memorandum of Understanding. While we continue to be sensitive to their feelings of grief over B'nai Torah's decision to dissolve, we look forward to bringing some of their cherished events from their community into ours, increasing our connection with each other and their feeling of belonging here at TST. We are looking forward to learning from and with each other and are excited to move forward as one community. I wrote to you recently about my experience at the URJ-run Shite Seminar for incoming and current temple presidents held in Dallas this past spring. It was an amazing experience to meet and learn together. One thing that came up again and again, and through almost every breakout session, was the importance of stewardship. While I think we're good at stewardship in some areas, I also see where we could be stronger. So in the next year, I will personally focus some of my time on improving our TST stewardship. I see 4 areas as most important: our philanthropic investors, our volunteers, our community through their dues commitment, and our services through music, spirituality, and ritual. In my head, I pictured these 4 things that are fundamental to the success of our communities like the poles of a chuppah. The poles are essential to keep the chuppah up, and each of these poles are essential in keeping our congregation healthy and thriving. I will continue to focus on making sure all of our members of our community feel essential to our success. Honestly, I believe the best is yet to come for TST. All those long-delayed projects and programming are now being scheduled and proposed. Can you imagine the possibilities? Because I can. I can imagine all of our community working together, making Temple Shir Tikva not only the heart of Jewish living in Metro West, but our community of friends, supporters in the times of need, cheerleaders in the times of celebration, and co-workers when there is work to be done. Our safe, vibrant, amazing home in the chaos of the world. And I encourage all of you to imagine with me. Thank you. We will pass this on to Jane Horn for she is online. So
can everyone hear me?
We'll connect with Jane online for the approval of the minutes.
Can everyone hear me? Can
Yep.
everyone hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. Beautiful words, Jackie. Thank you. So in the meeting materials that went out were the draft meeting minutes from the June 6, 2022 TST annual meeting. Were there any edits or questions from anyone? I don't see any comments in the chat. So hearing nothing, I will make a motion to approve the TST annual meeting minutes of June 6, 2022.
I so move.
Can I get a second?
Second motion.
Okay, all in favor? And there's going to be something that'll pop up on everyone's screen to vote electronically for those of you who are at home. And I don't see the results. So can someone say whether the motion passed or not?
We're waiting for the poll to close.
Okay, sorry, jumped the gun.
Was there any abstentions? One. In the room? 24 in the room.
68. Okay.
Okay. So the motion passes. We had 68 in favor and 1 abstention. Does she close?
Great, thank you, everyone. I think that's it for me.
Jane, thank you for your many, many years of leadership in this position.
Thank you, Jackie. You're welcome.
All right. I would like to introduce Rebecca Chason, our treasurer, for financial.
So I get the opportunity to follow Danny and Jackie, which is not fun to talk about finances. Good evening. For those of you who I don't know, or I haven't had the opportunity to meet, my name is Rebecca Chason, and I have had the privilege of serving as the treasurer for the past year. Tonight, I will be reviewing with you the Temple's balance sheet, statement of operations, and proposed FY24 budget. At the conclusion of my comments, I will be happy to address any questions you might have. And for those of you joining via Zoom, please feel free to put any questions you have in the chat. Before I begin, I do want to thank Michael Cohn, the Assistant Treasurer, and the Finance Committee for all of their time and dedication to the financial stewardship of the Temple. I've appreciated the time they've committed and their insightful perspectives that they have shared as we are making decisions that impact the financial stability of the Temple. I especially want to thank Jeff Mayman, who has gone above and beyond to support me and Michael as we have transitioned into our roles. He has been willing to roll up his sleeves and help us in any areas that we have asked for, and that Michael and I are both extremely grateful for that. I also want to acknowledge the entire Temple leadership team for their commitment to supporting the financial operations of the Temple. As you will see reflected in the finances of the Temple, these leaders have worked tirelessly to streamline operations and reduce costs. They have sought out grants to support their growth, innovation, and development goals. They have looked to hire, reward, and retain the very best talent in order to deliver the best experiences to our congregants, our students, and our youngest children. I couldn't have a better group of leaders to be supporting and working with. And I especially want to thank Mary Beth, our executive director, who has not only gone above and beyond for the Temple, but has been an amazing partner with me as I execute my fiduciary responsibilities to the Temple. So as you heard Jackie say, the past year, the Temple has had to invest significantly in the infrastructure of our building. There were repairs made to the building, such as the roof, the sprinkler, and the HVAC, that could no longer be delayed. This year also marked a return to regular programming as we endeavored to have more in-person activities and create increased opportunities for people to gather in the Temple. Despite all of that we have done, we have maintained a healthy balance sheet and are forecasting to break even for the year. With that backdrop, I will turn to our financials. So if we can go to the balance sheet first. As you can see on the screen, TST has a total assets of about $5.9 million as of April 30th. Our total cash, excluding the endowment fund, amounted to approximately $1.9 million, of which 70% is restricted. This represents an increase over the prior year, which is primarily driven by an employee retention credit that we received at the start of the fiscal year. This money is currently being reserved to put towards debt repayment of the loan we took out for the HVAC system and also to support various personnel and staffing issues that we have for the temple. There's also an increase in cash as a result of just pure timing of payments. Our assets also include the endowment fund, which as of April totaled about $1,075,000. The slight increase over prior year is a result of our ability not to need to draw on the funds last year, as well as improved returns this year. Just as a reminder to all of you, we only utilize the income generated by the endowment fund each year. We do not spend the principal. Our remaining assets consist primarily of land, building, and other fixed assets, accounts receivable, pledge receivables, and grant receivables. Approximately half of the receivables consist of grants receivables, which will be collected as we spend the funds for the grant. The balance of the accounts receivable, as well as the pledge receivables, are balances that we expect to collect prior to June 30th. Can we go to the next slide? On the liability side, there is an increase in accounts payable primarily due to the timing of an outstanding HVAC bill. Deferred revenue is up over prior year as a result of some insurance proceeds that will be utilized later on in the year to complete repairs in the building. The great work the team is doing to secure grants is also reflected in this number, many of which will be drawn down in the upcoming year. I will get into that as we talk about the FY24 budget. And the HVAC loan payable is new this year as we began to draw down our borrowings a few months ago. One other thing to note in the restricted funds is the building fund, which appears flat year over year. But I want to call out that this is really a little bit deceiving. We actually depleted the entire building fund this year at the beginning of the fiscal year as we invested in the repairs. The board felt it would not be prudent to leave the building fund at zero, and so they made the decision to fund the building fund at the beginning of the fiscal year. Overall, our financial position is strong, with strong cash reserves bolstered by the securing of the ERC funds offset by borrowings of the HVAC system. If we can go to the income statement, this slide displayed now shows our operating statement, which will show details of our income and expenses. It's presented for comparison our 3 fiscal years prior, along with our results through April 30th, 2023, as compared to a budget prorated for as what reflect what the budget would be as of April 2023. While we anticipate coming in close to break even as the end of the fiscal year, you will see at the budget I presented, we are showing a loss of $266,000. This is primarily the result of donations, a large percentage of which come in during the last 2 months of the fiscal year. And as you will hear from development, many of which have been pledged over the past few weeks. Otherwise, the remaining income items are expected to come in close to budget. On the expense side, professional salaries are lower than budgeted, primarily since we budgeted for the hiring of an executive director. This position is currently posted, and we are hopeful, as is Mary Beth, that we will fill that position early in the fiscal year. The only other expense line item which is higher than budget is the building operations line item, and that's the result of the extra repairs and maintenance that we needed to do to tide us over till we could start to actually replace systems. Okay, and if we could go into the next slide, we get you into the year-end forecast as well as the proposed budget. So as I mentioned previously, the full year forecast for FY23 is pretty much a break even. What I'd like to focus on the slide is the FY24 budget. It's important to note that the Finance Committee who prepared this budget with the input from the leadership team believes this budget is reasonable and achievable and but is not without risk like any other endeavor that we try to see into the future. The proposed budget has been unanimously approved by the Board of Trustees for your consideration. Before I go into the details, I want to provide a few assumptions and guiding principles that we use to establish the budget. Dues were increased by 4.5% and school fees were increased by 5%, a reflection of our goal to keep increases below inflation despite our rising costs. And while we have seen an increase in TST membership over the past year, as well as addition to some of the CBT families, to those of you here, welcome, and those of you on Zoom, welcome. There are several reasons for this increase. First, as mentioned earlier, a priority in FY23 was working to invest in our building and infrastructure. We had many repairs that could no longer be put off. This work will continue into FY24 while we complete our HVAC system, roof repairs, and focus on repaying the borrowings that we've taken out related to the HVAC system. The FY24 budget also considers the personnel needs to support our growing community. In addition to the investment of personnel, we've made sure that they're getting the salaries, the benefits that are competitive with the marketplace to make sure that we can retain the very best talent. We recognize that no one likes to have dues increased, and it is our hope that the need to make further investments in the building and staffing will taper down after FY24, and we can focus on minimizing those increases in FY25. Our ELC also shows nice increase, which reflects the current enrollment levels. We've also increased ELC fees in line with market rates and to offset teacher salaries, which are ever increasing. It is a tight market for ELC teachers, and under Stephanie's leadership, the ELC operates a truly exceptional program, which we all should be proud of. Contributions are planned to be higher than last year and coming in on budget. As you can see, contributions make up a significant portion of our income. The continued generosity of our donors is essential, since our dues and school fees only cover about 65% of our total costs, excluding the ELC, which is generally self-funding. We rely on donations and other sources of income to make up this difference. We are assuming some increases in rental income in line with what we've seen in the second half of the year. The endowment is budgeted to be at $50,000, which represents 5% of fund assets, which has been authorized by the endowment committee. Other income includes payments of fees, security fees, and other miscellaneous income. On the expense side, there's a few things that I'd like to call out. First, there's an increase in professional salaries to reflect an addition of an executive director at a competitive salary, as well as the professional salary costs for Rabbi Lisa. Education costs are budgeted to be up slightly over the prior year, as well as ELC costs, which will increase, primarily driven by required staff to child ratios that are necessary based on the higher enrollment. Building operation costs are down as a result of less repairs and maintenance due to a new system being installed. Additionally, as part of our HVAC contract, the first year of maintenance is free, which represents a significant savings to the temple. Building administration is up slightly due to rising costs and continued support of our temple operations and staffing. The other important thing that I will note, we will be having a community engaged professional hired as well as providing health care to our ELC teachers, which has been a huge differentiator as we've lost many potential talented teachers as a result of not being able to be competitive in the market. These costs are funded by the grants that the leadership team has effectively searched out and written phenomenal grant applications to be securing those grants. We are including in budget expenses which are offset by approximately $150,000 worth of grants, which is tremendous to go a long way in terms of helping them achieve their growth and development goals. So with that, I just gave you a lot of information, a lot of facts. I'm happy to respond to any questions that anyone might have here or in the chat. Oh, sorry, you're right. Thank you. I'm going to go to the last slide. This is actually, I'm just going to put it up instead of reading it off so you all can see. This is the 2024 dues that will be reflected in your membership packets. It is reflective of the 4.5% increase for dues and 5% increase for education costs, which I previously mentioned. Okay. So, yes.
I'm a little disappointed in the lack of transparency on the financials. They're not visible on the screen, and they're not visible in these printouts. So I would like to think, I think if you come to the annual meeting, you should get a set of financial documents, and I don't feel that I've seen them. I couldn't see what you've said here, and I really can't see what's here, and I don't feel that is financial transparency. I have no doubt you've done a great job, but in the past, I think we've had readable financial statements, and I don't think these are.
I think we've historically handed them out. We went online this time because the large amount of people are here. I am happy to.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Sorry, I think historically we have printed them out. I think this year we did not. I'm happy to print them
Yeah,
out.
nor were they available online, you know.
Okay. Well, that's fine.
I just think it's from a transparency standpoint, I think it's good that we show people what we have. If you make the effort to come here, or if you ask for them, I think you should be able to see them. I could not see anything that you were talking about. I didn't even know they were in here. I still can't see them.
Yeah, they're not, because they're not included in the printout. So I am happy to make sure we get those distributed to those who want them and make sure we post them online, and I am happy to sit down. This is not intended not to be transparent, and I will walk you through, or anyone who is interested, any aspect of the financials that you're interested in, to whatever detail you want. I have no problem taking that time, and apologies for that. Understand your frustration. Are there any other questions or questions in the chat? Okay. Okay. So with that, I will now make a motion to approve the dues and fees for July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024 as proposed. Okay. Is there a second? Great. Okay, the motion is moved. There's been a second. Is there any further discussion? Anything on the chat, Mary Beth, that's come through? Okay. Seeing no discussion, we'll now vote on the motion. And Mary Beth, are you putting that up in a, okay. I'm sorry.
I assume you want us to indicate if we're voting yes or no. I was waiting for Rebecca to say all those in favor.
Yeah, so I was waiting for her to make sure Mary Beth was ready to put it up, but I'm not, am I going out of order?
We were waiting for the poll to show up, so they got to
Okay, all those in favor? Okay, in the room, any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Okay, so it's 62 yes, 1 abstention. So motion passes. Okay. Second motion, to approve the budget for July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024 as presented. If anyone wishes to move, please state that. Do I have a second? Nope. Second, I have a motion, I have a second. Is there any further discussion on the budget? Anything in the chat? Okay, tell me, yeah?
I thought I read in the minutes that the projections here didn't include the CPT families, which seems like a nice buff. Oh, thank I thought I read in the minutes that the projections of revenue here didn't include the CBT families, and that strikes me as a nice buffer if that's still the case in these numbers.
They actually are included, but we did it at break even, so that it's included in the revenue line and an offset in the salary line. And I believe right now we are still short some members, so we're not at break even yet.
Okay, I didn't know, I was curious, because
Yeah.
otherwise I was hoping for the buffer.
Well, I appreciate that, so am I. Any other questions? Okay, Mary Beth, let me know when you're ready. All in favor? Okay. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, 62 vote yes, so the motion passes. Yes. 40, plus us in here. Oh, sorry, 40, so is that 62? Okay. So 62 or 64? I don't have my calculator. Great, thank you, everyone. And with that, I am going to hand it off to Roy, right, who's on Zoom.
Yep. Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me? Great. So I am Roy Lurie. I'm the trustee for leadership and governance. And you should all have a copy now of the proposed bylaw amendment, either in the annual meeting binder link on Zoom or on the paper handouts that you might have. So on review of the bylaws, we identified some inconsistencies if we ever need more flexibility in the timing and term of trustees. So we consulted with Phil Benjamin, who has a long history of helping us with our bylaws. And after discussion, we recommended these proposed amendments. The proposed bylaw change was approved by the board to bring to the annual meeting tonight. So at this point, are there any discussions or questions around the proposed bylaw change? Just put your questions in chat or grab a microphone if you're there. Anything?
Yeah, hang on, Roy. Hang on.
Okay, something coming.
Roy, I'm a little unclear what we're doing here.
Yep.
I don't quite understand the purpose of the amendment. We've had presidents that have served longer than a 2-year term in the past. And I'm just wondering why we need this amendment.
Yeah, so two things. So good point. We
Rory,
have a situation.
excuse me, could you summarize the amendment? I have no idea what we're talking about at all.
Okay,
Oh, I know, but it's really long.
yeah. Okay, I will summarize it actually by reading. There's an argument for change and an argument against the change, which is actually required by our bylaws for a change. So let me read those for everybody. So the new proposed bylaws provide greater clarity and organization, making it easier for members to understand the structure and election process of the congregation's offices. Furthermore, the new bylaws allow for flexibility in exceptional circumstances, such as when the president may need to serve for more than 2 years if deemed necessary by the board. This flexibility ensures that the congregation continue to function effectively and efficiently under unforeseen circumstances. So that would be the argument for the change. The argument against the change is that the current bylaws have been in place for some time and have served the congregation well. Changing them might create confusion among members. Allowing the president to serve more than 2 years in exceptional circumstances could lead to concerns about concentration of power and a lack of opportunity for other members to serve in leadership roles. But in some ways, we actually, as pointed out, we have that flexibility if we need to for the president, for example, to serve longer. So why make the change? There are inconsistencies in the bylaws. So for example, our current bylaws say things like, the president shall be elected in even numbered years, and the president-elect shall be elected in odd number of years. If we were ever to change this, that would, and needed to shift it, there would be some inconsistencies here. It's also an opportunity to do some cleanup of the bylaws here. For example, the bylaws have these transitional provisions that handled our 2017, 2016 switch over of how we were doing things. And so this just streamlines this away. So at some level, it's an optimization that we're doing to drive for consistency here. It doesn't fundamentally change what we can do, but it simplifies it and clarifies it from an organization perspective. Is that helpful?
Yes.
Okay, any
Matt has a question. Hold on.
yeah, thanks, Matt.
So Roy, all right, specifically, do the current bylaws preclude a president from serving an additional term if duly elected through the current election process?
No, but an additional term, there is some ambiguity. Would it be an additional year or an additional 2 years? A term is traditionally 2 years. And so are you asking whether a current president can serve for 4 years or 3 years?
I'm simply asking if the way the bylaws are currently constructed, can a president be elected for an additional term?
So the bylaws are contradictory. There's nothing that says a president can't be elected for additional term, but the bylaws do say that the president has to be elected on the even number of years and the president-elect on the odd number of years. So this simplifies, it removes that possible contradiction.
Matt, does that answer your question?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Does that mean that if we were allowed to keep a president on for a third year, but then we can't have them step down for 2 years? Because we can't put another president on for 2 years in the
No.
current bylaws?
When I do not believe we're precluded from that situation. Any more discussion? Otherwise, I'd like to now entertain the following motion. That the bylaws of Temple Shir Tikva be amended in Article 7, Officers, by striking Section 2, Election thereof, and inserting an updated Section 2 as described in its place. If anyone wishes to move the motion, please state in the chat box or by stating it out loud if you're in person.
So moved.
Ginny has moved the motion.
Thank you. So
Mary?
is there a second?
Yes, we have a second.
Great.
On Zoom.
Is there any further discussion on the motion? Okay, we'll now move to vote on the motion that the bylaws of Temple Shir Tikva be amended in Article 7, Officers, by striking Section 2, Election thereof, and inserting an updated Section 2 as described in its place. For those of you online, we should have the poll ahead of you, in front of you on your screens. There'll be 1 minute to vote. And for those of you in person, I'll have you do that part of it, Jackie, because I can't count votes from here.
All in favor?
We have 61, what is it? 61 yes, 1 abstention. No opposed. Motion passes.
Great. Well, thank you, everybody. Really appreciate that. I'd now like to introduce Rachel Heckler and Jonathan Tabaski, the co-chairs of the nominating committee.
Thank you, Roy. Hope you feel better. So John and I are really excited to be here. I'd like to start off by thanking everybody that served on the nominating committee. Trudy Sonis as one of our committee members, Jackie Lauren as an ex officio committee member, Roy Lurie as an ex officio committee member, and Rabbi Danny as an ex officio committee member. I'd also like to thank those of the trustees that are going to be rolling off this year, and I'm going to try take off my reading glasses, see who's in the room, but of course, Harry Merkin, our past president, Shayna Kaplan, who is the trustee for teen education and engagement, Jane Horn, recording secretary, who held that position for many years, Tara Sagor, Interfaith Families and Inclusion, Beth Cohen, new membership, and Julie Kniznik, who was the member at large for leadership development and engagement. And now I'll pass it off to John to present the slate.
Sure. Presenting the slate for the 2023-2024 year are the following. For 2-year terms with 1 year remaining on their term, President Jackie Lauren, Treasurer Rebecca Chasen, Assistant Treasurer Michael Cohn, Leadership and Governance Roy Lurie, IT and Technology Richard Kay, Development Ginny McDowell, Spirituality and Worship Jonathan Zarkauer, Social Justice and Community Connections Michael Wadness, Marketing Jason Lieberman. Starting their 2-year terms, Recording Secretary Brian Fair, new membership Rachel Welt, Child Education and Engagement Sasha Tulgin, Teen Education and Engagement Maiko Bachman, Adult Engagement and Jewish Living Jill Abend, Early Learning Center Cece LaFell, Interfaith Families and Inclusion Jen Weiner. Starting 1-year terms, President-elect Amy O'Donnell, HR Jill Zuckerman, Building and Security Adam Umina, and Community Communications Michael Henrich. I will now entertain a motion to approve the nominating committee report for officers and trustees for 2023-2024 as proposed.
I have a question.
Go ahead, sir.
Could you explain what ex officio means?
I'll let can we get Roy? He would probably have a better definition than we would of that.
Yeah, so ex officio just basically means because of your role, you are a part of the committee. So because I am the trustee for leadership and governance, and because Jackie is the president, both of us are part of the nominating committee because of the nature of our roles.
Are those voting positions?
Those are voting positions for, well, we are part of the nominating team and the nominating committee, and so yes, are part of that decision-making process.
Does the rabbi have a voting position?
Does the rabbi? The rabbi does not have a voting, has input, but is not have a voting position on nominating.
That wasn't clear looking at this.
We also had another committee member had to recuse herself because we decided we wanted to nominate her.
Okay, I had heard a yes to the motion. I don't believe I heard a second. Okay, very good. Is there any other additional discussion or questions that would like to be asked? Okay, hearing none, we will vote on the motion. Okay, the motion is to approve the nominating committee report for officers and trustees for 2023-2024 as proposed. A poll will appear on your screens now. You have 1 minute to vote on the motion. Those members here in person, please show your vote by a raised hand. All in favor? Are we allowed to vote? I don't know. We vote on our own motion? I think we
Make sure you need it bigger. I can't see anything.
Okay, are there any opposed? I see no opposed. Any abstentions? I see no abstentions. The motion is passed, and I'll turn the meeting to Ginny.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Ginny McDowell, as you know, the Development Trustee of the Board. And on behalf of the Development Committee, I'm happy to present the Development/Annual Fund Report for fiscal year 2023. Our fiscal year ends June 30th, and I would like to share just a few highlights from this past year. Roughly half of our congregation has donated to the 2023 Annual Fund. And I am pleased to report, very pleased this year to report, that we have had 100% participation from the board for the annual fund. We have 55 new member households that have joined TST in the past year. In addition, we are welcoming our newest members from Congregation B'nai Torah. 54 new students are in our K-12 education programs. 50 members were honored for their long-standing generosity to the temple with the launch of our new TST Loyalty Circle. 70-plus people, which I believe the rabbi mentioned, attended our most recent Shabbat Yeladim service, and there is much more as we have a lot to look forward to in the coming months, including the Loyalty Circle launch. So this past February, we proudly introduced the new Temple Shir Tikva Loyalty Circle. Debuting alongside our existing COAC Leadership Circle, the Loyalty Circle honors the commitment and generosity of our members who, year after year, have consistently contributed $1,000 or more to the annual fund. This new program recognizes the loyalty of these members who have generously supported the temple with a gift of $1,000 or more to the annual fund each year for the past 3, 5, or 10 or more consecutive fiscal years through the creation of 3 loyalty recognition levels: Havarim, or friends, level for 3 consecutive years, Halutzim, or pioneer level for 5 consecutive years, and Shutafim, or partners level, for 10 or more consecutive years. We are grateful for all of our dedicated members who have demonstrated their commitment to support Temple Shir Tikva every year. And we were delighted to welcome 50 members of our congregation into the new Loyalty Circle at the time of its launch, representing approximately 10% of our members. COAC Leadership Circle update. After a successful launch in 2020-2021, we are pleased to continue the COAC Leadership Circle. COAC means strength in Hebrew, so I am happy to report that the COAC Leadership Circle is now in its 3rd year and going strong. This giving circle recognizes the tremendous generosity of our members who contribute $5,000 or more to the temple on an annual basis, exclusive of dues and fees. This amount is based on total contributions during the fiscal year from July 1st to June 30th and includes the annual fund and all restricted funds. In its first year, there were 25 members of COAC and 27 members in the second year. Currently, we have 41 members in the 22-23 year, 5 of whom are new to the group, and more members are expected to join the COAC Leadership Circle by the end of this current fiscal year. I, of course, encourage all of you who are listening or sitting here to consider joining our giving circles. A major donor update. Thanks largely to the COAC Leadership Circle and greater outreach to moderate donors at Shir Tikva, the total number of donors contributing $5,000 or more to the temple continues to increase. Moreover, the total combined value of the annual fund donations of $5,000 or more has also increased, demonstrating the growing commitment of major donors to support Temple Shir Tikva in a major way. In addition to our annual fund, I would like to mention our impactful community-supported membership program. This program offers TST membership to any new individual or family at no cost for their first year, providing access to all of Shir Tikva's robust social and educational programs, engaging religious services, meaningful life cycle events, and so much more. We are delighted to share that last year, 76% of community-sponsored members enthusiastically decided to become part of the TST family. Our temple relies on the generosity of all of our members to help cover nearly 30% of our operating expenses. These donations ensure that we can continue to create a culture of belonging among our members, bring meaning to the lives of our congregants, and welcome everyone into our sacred community. Thank you to everyone who has shown their support for Temple Shir Tikva by making a donation to the annual fund. For anyone who has not yet contributed, there is still time because our fiscal year closes on June 30th. All you have to do is simply visit www.shirtikva.org/giving or send in a check to the temple, because your generosity today will help sustain the vitality of Temple Shir Tikva and enable us to continue to serve as the heart of Jewish living and practice in Metro West. I would like to take a moment to personally thank the members of our Development Committee, Harry Merkin, Scott Cohen, Rebecca Chasin, Jess Adani, Jane Lampert, Carol Osterer, Shanna Gershman, Jill Abend, Lynn Nathanson, Jackie Lauren, Christina Loftus, and of course Mary Beth Retker and Rabbi Danny. We have continuously met throughout the year on Zoom with nearly 100% attendance and participation. So thank you to our very smart, very strong, and very active committee. We would love to have anyone join us who is welcome. We would like to welcome anyone who would like to join us. In closing, I will say that I hope you have a happy and healthy summer, and remember that gratitude is one of the most important Jewish values. So thank you, thank you, thank you to everyone who has contributed to the annual fund, and I look forward to being in touch with you next year.
Thank you, Ginny. As always, amazing. Now we're on to old business, new business. Is there any old business? Any on the chat? Seeing no old business. Is there any new business? Any on the chat? Seeing no new business, we will move on. Is there any further questions that anyone has? Any on the chat? Okay. We're moving right along. You should come to my board meetings. No new questions. I would like to, hold on, I've got to switch my page. Now I don't know where I am. I would like to, how do we do, motion to, I would like to present a motion. Oh, we have a question, Mary Beth.
Hello? So I've just been thinking about new congregants that will join us as a result of B'nai Torah.
Yeah, Congregation B'nai Torah joining us.
Congregation B'nai Torah. And I realize that this discussion is, this year and looking ahead, but also thinking about not only welcoming them, but in the welcome, maybe it includes seeing how some of them can become active or how quickly they can. And I wonder if this is a unique kind of situation. I mean, this doesn't happen all the time. I wonder if there's any discussion that might be beneficial such that some of these new congregants who, for example, held board positions at B'nai Torah could be, incorporated into this board this year instead of wait. I mean, it might be motivating for them to be included in that way. So I wondered if this has been discussed or thought about.
Well, any congregant is welcome to join any board member or any board meeting and be heard. That is the joy of our board meetings. Is there particular voting positions on the board available for them?
Clearly, we have this discussion once a year, and they're coming,
Yes.
very quickly. And maybe some of them, can't serve in that capacity any longer at their temple, and it might be frustrating to wait a whole year. So I just wondered if there was some mechanism.
So the question is about welcoming members from B'nai Torah into our space to be heard and to be on committees and things like that. We would welcome their involvement as soon as they are wanting to do that. We are happy to do that. Come on up. Danny can probably speak better.
I think just the one thing to say to that is I think from the very beginning and with pre-registration of members from Congregation B'nai Torah, we are excited about what this is going to do for the leadership of the temple as a whole in terms of committees and different groups, and also bringing some of the programming across in that way and really positive in that regard. With regards to timing and the kind of board composition and the way things happen, that was not possible for this coming year. Our sincere hope is that the distinctions between CBT, TST members will disappear very quickly in the context, and that there will be members on the board in due course, be it next year or beyond, from CBT who choose to be part of the board and take on leadership roles. And a number of them are already stepping forward in different ways, and we're very excited to see that. And in terms of our process, just so you know, when someone joins the synagogue, we get a form that tells us about their interests and their areas that they would like to be involved in. And we see that as a board, we see that as a staff, and we follow up with the people. So be careful what you write on those forms, but it means we will be coming to you to look for more leadership and more involvement. And that was, from the very beginning, I would just add, one of the things that we talked about between our two communities was this infusion of additional leaders and members would be something positive for both of us in our combined entity moving forward. So from that will happen in due course.
Does that answer your question?
I just wanted,
Yeah.
aired in some way.
Yep.
I mean, I just wanted to know anything about what you just said.
Yeah, and yes, we welcome any involvement. The more, the better. Hands in the temple. Any other questions? Check the chat. We got some.
And in terms of that invitation to get involved in leadership in the temple, it's extended to anyone and everyone who is in the chat watching it, or on the Zoom, or people in the room. We are always looking for more people to get involved, and we will, I'm sure, be doing some kind of fair again at the beginning of the year for the variety of groups and committees that we can get involved. On
October 1st, there'll be a volunteer
October
fair.
1st.
And Peter Aben wanted me to tell you that we already have people on committees, on the ACE committee, so.
There are members
sorry.
of CBT, people who've joined from CBT have already joined our ACE committee. So
Yes.
it's already happening in that respect.
I will now entertain the motion to adjourn adjourn the 2023 annual meeting. If anyone wishes to move the motion, please state in the chat box or by stating out loud if you are in person. Ginny so moves the motion. Is there a second? The motion has been seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, I adjourn the 2023 annual meeting. Thank you very much for everybody. What? Oh, we have to vote? All right, sorry. I apologize. Phil's like mad at me now. Can we vote to adjourn? All those in favor? All those opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. Go home. Thank you very much.